and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA Podcast.
Hello, people, and welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA Podcast. And we are joined today by our good friend, Josue Pavon, who is no longer in Boston. He's hitched his load to another winning franchise. You may be the only cat, Josue, you may be the only cat who back-to-back years covered NBA championship teams in different cities.
It might be, man. It might be.
So clearly, you should be sought out for teams like the Clippers and teams that haven't quite had that
teams that need that luck.
Yeah, you might be that lucky charm. You might be that lucky charm. Before we get started, folks, I just want to remind folks that you are, in fact, listening to the Big Three NBA Podcast, which is part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you can find the Big Three NBA Podcast, past and present, in addition to lots of other content. Josue will talk a little bit about some of the things you do still for CLNS Media Network. In addition to what he does, what I do, there's a Garden Report, which goes live immediately after every Celtics game. Obviously, we don't have any games in the near future to be going live from, but we will be getting various episodes that we'll be generating throughout the summer as news breaks, things of that nature. Home or away, win or lose, we are the ones that got you covered. So if you're into the Boston Celtics and all that's happening with them, CLNS Media Network has anything and everything you could possibly want. And right now, the team that Josue covers now, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they want a chip. And we ain't talking about the kind in the bag with the greasy fingers leaving you after. We're talking about championship. They advanced to the NBA Finals following a Game 5 blowout win over the Anthony Edwards-led Minnesota Timber Pups. They have been reduced to Timber Pups.
Yeah, they're the Pups now, huh?
I have to bring them back to the kennel in their Timber Pups now. I thought they were ready to be full-blown Timberwolves, but the way that Ant-Man looked like an Ant-Man in this series, I got to put them back in the kennel. They're back in the Timber Pup stage of growth. But one guy who has been anything but small is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the league's MVP. Backed that up by being Western Conference Finals MVP. Averaged 31, 5 rebounds, 8 dimes in the 5-game series against Minnesota. You look at his numbers, Josue, and they're like, damn, he was kind of nice. Having seen him up close throughout this series, was he as good as those numbers would tell you, or was he even better than that?
I'd say he was even better, to be honest. Well, maybe it's closer to the what the numbers say, but it's all, man, like just seeing it live and seeing how they get guys involved. I think that's what makes them so special, man. Like, man, this team. Did you see these guys, Sherrod? You see, because I feel like people are just now starting to see just how they can go on these runs. And obviously he's the head of that, but it gets everyone else involved, and it's on both ends of the floor, man. Like I think a lot of the times, people who maybe haven't seen the Thunder a lot throughout the season don't know about his defensive side, and I think that's what really triggers things, or this team in general, in the sense of that they're historically one of the best defensive teams the NBA has ever seen. So yeah, I mean, look, what Shai does across the board, man, it's incredible, and I really think that a lot of what we saw against the Minnesota Timberwolves was a byproduct of what happened against the Denver Nuggets, man. These guys really tested this team. Championship team, obviously, it's not too long ago, a couple of years ago. They've been in the Western Conference, sort of been one of those teams that's like, okay, if we're going to get there, we have to go through this team. And I think a lot of that, that win truly resonated with these guys going into this series, man. I had the Thunder winning this in 6. Like, they wrapped it up quicker than I anticipated, because I was expecting that big time, back against the wall kind of performance from Anthony Edwards, rather. And I thought that the entire team would rally behind that, but that wasn't the case. Instead, it was the other way around in the sense of what SGA was able to do. And obviously everyone else rallying around him. Chet Holmgren, man, the way he's been playing these last 2 games, it really reminds you of what this quote-unquote championship window can truly look like for these guys. Now, the reason why I say quote-unquote, Sherrod, because, man, you look at what just happened to the Boston Celtics, you never know. I mean, you never know what kind of setbacks can happen in the near future. But because of, things like that because of what this team has been through, because of what this franchise has been through, in the sense of trying to get back to the mountaintop from the last, team that really came this close to winning a title. I think when you look at this franchise, what's going on right now, it's just really rewarding in the sense of what Sam Presti has been able to do, what they've been able to put together. Through the injuries, like Chet Holmgren, this guy couldn't walk for 2 months this season. Now he's out there helping this team clinch NBA finals appearance. Man, it's incredible stuff, man. The whole city is it was an incredible night here in Oklahoma City, man.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit later about just this window of opportunity because and as you kind of alluded to a year ago, we were talking the same thing about the Boston Celtics, and a year later, very different. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to talk to you a bit more about Shai. Obviously, this year, league MVP, Finals MVP, he's had a great season, and when you look at him, he was one of I think 3 or 4 guys that were like unanimous first team All NBA. I believe it's him, Jokic, Tatum, and I believe Giannis was the other. Now, when I think about those other guys, Tatum probably the exception. There's something uniquely physical about them, or something. There's something about them that just jumps out that makes you understand why they're so great. Like Jokic, tremendous triple-double, great passer. Giannis, physical freak. But with Shai, it's like he's a really good basketball player. A lot of, but what is it that makes him such a special talent? Because right now, he looks to be maybe the most unstoppable force, not named Halliburton in the NBA right now.
I don't know, man. I'd say they're neck and neck, if anything. I still give the edge to SGA, but okay, I hear what you say. I
said the key word, what I said was right now, because if we're talking about body of work, it's not even close. SGA,
okay, all right. That's fair.
In the moment, I'm just allowing myself to just get behind the cage and be a prisoner of the moment right now and give Halliburton those props, because I've been one of the many people who have been crapping on that guy for a long time. I got to give it to him, though. He's balling out. What is it about SGA, though, that you find makes him such a special talent?
I was going to say, we're going to get that performance in the finals regardless, so it's going to be fun either way. But listen, I just think it's his offense, it's his scoring. I mean, he scores in ways that I just can't remember ever seeing, at least to this magnitude, in the sense of how he's able to just get by his defender, his ability to just pretty much shoot anywhere around the floor. I mean, look, he's not a great 3-point shooter, but he's good enough that you have to close out on him. He can beat you off the dribble. His mid-range game is incredible. I mean, he's able to get the free throw line, maybe in a volume that some people don't necessarily agree with. But I think a lot of that just had to do with how tough he is to stay in front of. I just think whether it's in transition or whether it's in a half-court set, I mean, he just creates issues. And then because of his passing abilities, he's able to find guys and get guys involved. And, you surround him with a handful of 3-point shooters like the Oklahoma City Thunder have. And you could find yourself on the wrong end of a 18-3 run. Or, there's a reason why this team, broke the NBA record for most double-digit wins because of stuff like that. And it all starts with SGA. So, yeah, man, I just think a lot of this, what we're seeing right now is unbelievable. It's almost like a combination of like Allen Iverson, but a little bit taller with like Penny Hardaway. You know what I mean? Like, it's something we haven't seen before. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm what, 25, maybe 25 years. I've been watching this NBA, a little bit over than that. Like, I can't remember seeing a player like this in the sense of having that athleticism, the size too, right? He's not like one of those smaller guards like AI was, during his heyday. And he's just unbelievable in the sense of how you can't stay in front of him. Teams have tried over and over again. And again, because of the talent that's around him, it just makes the Oklahoma City Thunder such a difficult team to beat. I mean, going into these series, yeah, they swept the Memphis Grizzlies, but a lot of times, whether it's some of the best teams in the NBA, in the course of a series, you're going to get a win, okay? I mean, regardless of who's waiting for them in the finals or who they're going to face in the finals, I'm not calling a sweep here, but like, I just think this team is really, really difficult to beat in the best of 7 series, and SGA has everything to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been that good all season long. Was no let up. Even when they had injuries to Chet and other guys not available, he was still not just carrying them and putting up big numbers, but they were winning games. They have an incredibly talented team, very deep team that can do a lot of things. And certainly when you look at their roster, you got to tip your hat to Sam Presti and the job that he's done. But I will say this, though. This situation that the Thunder in is very different. And it's a place I don't think Sam or this team has been before. And that is, yes, this is their second trip since moving to OKC, where they got to the finals. But it's the first time where they realistically have pressure. It's still somewhat early for the players to start talking about legacies, but it's not too early to start talking about Sam Presti's legacy. I mean, he's been in that spot for damn near 20 years. I think 2007 was his first year there. And when you start going down the roll call of the players that he has had on his roster, you're talking about damn near a dozen Hall of Famers. Guys are talking first. I mean, you got Durant, you got Westbrook, you got James Harden, you got Chris Paul. I mean, Shai Gilgeous is trending in that direction. Paul George, no matter what the people want to say about Paul, is going to be a Hall of Famer. And you're like, damn, they've had some really good players. But it seems like this is the first time where there's actually a potential backlash if they don't win it all. What's your sense of Sam Presti's legacy at this point, and how important is it for him and his franchise to make the most of this opportunity? Because it doesn't matter whether the Knicks come back and win that series or whether the Pacers send their ass home for the summer, very soon. OKC is going to be heavily favored to win that finals matchup. Right. How much pressure do you sense there is on Sam Presti to get Oklahoma City that first championship in that city?
Oh, the pressure's on. The pressure's on for sure, Sherrod. I mean, you said it perfectly. I mean, how fitting is this though? The fact that what happened last night or Wednesday night, May 28th, this is the exact day that Klay Thompson went off in Game 6 and broke these fans' heart, with the Golden State Warriors, and when they were able to make that comeback. This team was never the same after that, as you remember. Things just started to fall apart left and right, and all of a sudden, the championship window was closed, and it belonged to the Golden State Warriors. So I just think when you look at, again, they call it the two mountains, right? Presti calls it the that era and then this era. I think they've done their best to not connect the two. Right. I mean, SGA got that question. After winning the Western Conference Finals, is there any correlation? He's like, look, there's no correlation here. I mean, it's a nod to what Sam Presti's been able to do and how good he is, how talented he is, able to bridge this gap as quickly as he did and do it in a way that, there was some dark days, as SGA called it, but when he was traded here, like he said on the podium, there was no quote unquote vision, but he knew that Presti knew what he was doing, and he put his trust in that. He knew that this was going to happen sooner rather than later. And 3 years later, here we are. So I just think, yes, the pressure is on Presti for sure, in the sense of or this team, because of the way this whole run was put together. And when you look at the regular season, the 68 wins and all that stuff, it's like, man, this would be a humongous disappointment if this team doesn't get it done. But I also think it's just a testament to what Presti's been able to do, in a sense of how incredible it's been, how historic it's been, unprecedented. We've never seen quite a season like this, and especially in this franchise's history. So yeah, the pressure is there for sure, but I just think this team does an incredible job of just keeping the outside noise where it belongs. I mean, you mentioned those all-stars, or those superstars rather, and you compared them to SGA. And I forgot to mention this at the end of my spiel or whatever. One of the things that really separates him from those guys is just the acknowledgement of the quote unquote outside noise, what people think, what the naysayers say. He doesn't even clap back at the quote unquote haters, right? He doesn't even acknowledge them. It's just about his teammates and about winning that championship. It's just about getting to the finals and getting it done. There wasn't a single ounce of champagne, of beer. There was a little confetti that came down to the floor. But if you ask me if the Thunder had anything to do with that, they probably would have said, no, don't even do any of that. We're trying to win a championship here. And that's just been the focus from day one. And you really feel that, with these guys. They were smiling yesterday. They had a really good time after winning the Western Conference Championship. But it wasn't the same sort of jubilation that we've seen before. It wasn't that, It
wasn't like the Knicks getting to the second round of the playoffs.
Right.
You got folks talking about naming
1,000 people outside.
Yeah, you got your fans talking about naming streets after players, and they get to the second round of the playoffs. I'm like,
Yo, can you imagine if they were to win the Eastern Conference Final? Oh man, I don't see a comeback up, happening. But if that just hypothetically, like, yeah, there was none of that. Like, and, and no Luka Doncic with a beer in his hand. You know what I mean? Like, that's not even a shot at Luka, but just to give you a sense of what the past celebrations have been after the Western Conference Final, at the end of a Western Conference Finals championship. So yeah, man, it's incredible, and it's super impressive because obviously this is the youngest team in the NBA, and SGA is sort of like the old, quote unquote, older guy, even at 27. They call Caruso an OG, an old head, because he's 30, 31. But that's just how young these guys are, man, and it's unbelievable how mature they are in the sense of just blocking all that out and just focusing on the task at hand.
Yeah, and obviously, they've done a good job of just really trying to create enough separation between, that OKC team of the past that was among the top teams in the NBA at one point, and the OKC team of today, which is in a similar position. But you cannot ignore the bridge between those two being Sam Presti, and you can't ignore that no matter what he'll say and how different things are, there's pressure for them to win a championship because they built this team in a way that not only did they have the best record in the NBA and the best team from beginning to end, but they position themselves to where they can stay in that predicament for years to come with the draft picks and with the talent that they have. Before we go any further,
I got something to say about it.
I know you got some bars. Josue got some bars.
You see me, right? I'm waiting for my beat to, right when the beat drops.
It's like double dutch. We about to jump in. Yep, I see it. Before we let Josue drop some bars.
I get the cipher, you know what I mean? Get my bars on.
Exactly. Just want to let those of you listening to the show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast and like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and lots of other great Celtics content. And please make sure to turn on your notifications so that you know the instant a new video episode like this drops. Now, Josue, as you were about to drop bars, what you got?
No, it's just that when you talk about bridging the gap between that generation, that Thunder team and this year's team, I can't help but look back and just think about just how much the NBA has changed. Like the landscape or the way that the way you were supposed to go about putting together a championship team, the Big Three era, the super team era. Like Sam Presti knew that if he was going to put together the next championship team, it wasn't going to be that way. It was going to be you find your young superstar and you fill those parts through the draft. And it's easy to say that because, we've seen it before with the Celtics, but to do it in the sense of like you had George and, you could go the other route. No, he stuck with it, Sherrod, right? He didn't buckle to the pressure or even try to pull that off because he knew that wasn't the way to do it anymore. You can't always just convince teams or superstars to come together and make it work. And at the same time, you don't know if it's going to work. I mean, look at what happened with the Phoenix Suns. Look what happened with the, Brooklyn Nets and all that. I really do think that he was a visionary in the sense of looking ahead, looking forward, and obviously finding the perfect, the ideal superstar to start this, reset. And that was in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's incredible looking back on the trade, obviously, because if you look at what the Clippers gave away, what those picks turned into, what this Thunder team looks like. But if you look at things from the Clippers perspective and where they were in that time, you can't help but see why they did this, right? Because of what they saw in the past. This is the next dynasty. We need to put together the next super team. Look at the Warriors, look what Boston got cooking up. I just feel like the Thunder and Sam Presti, of course, didn't fall into that trick. You know what I mean? He knew that the era was going to come to an end eventually, but either way, I just think he saw it in a way that he saw it in a way that his next big team, the players on that team, most likely not in the NBA yet. And that's okay. And because you're able to stockpile picks, you can get there quicker, but you had to get the right superstar to get those picks. And that was Paul George. So man, it's incredible. I mean, the fans out here, they're very knowledgeable. They get that. They know all the moves that Presti did to put this team together. And I just can't imagine how loud the Paycom Center is going to be when they host Game 1 of the NBA Finals. That was the loudest I've ever heard it when they wrapped up the Western Conference Finals, and it was from start to finish, right? And of course, you saw it wasn't even a close game, so it just turned into a party at one point throughout that second half. And man, I'm really I really can't wait to see it all unfold.
Yeah, when that first quarter ended and I realized Minnesota had like about 9 points more than I did sitting on my fat butt watching the game, I knew they were in trouble. Because
That was crazy.
I mean that's just not normal. And you know the thing about this OKC team is that they're clearly built to win a title now, and they've got the kind of reinforcements, they've got the kind of collateral going forward to just rinse, recycle, repeat. And we kind of touched on this at the very beginning about how it's very similar to how we saw the Celtics a year ago. But a lot has changed, obviously, and the Celtics, they're you know that window isn't quite as wide as it was a year ago, and some might even say that it's closed. That they're going to have to do some things to reopen it. And when you look at OKC, clearly they're built. When you talk about your best players, 27 years old, your second best player is like what? 20. Jay Will's like 23, 24, 23. And then you got Chet, who's fairly young as well. And you start looking at really, you know, their core guys going forward, and they're all relatively young, and so they're built to build upon what they've done so far. But the one thing that I think can't be ignored is how this is NBA, and you've seen enough of this to know that it's a copycat league. If a team sees something that another team is doing that works, they're going to say, damn it, we're going to do the same thing. I know we don't have their personnel, we don't have their scouting, we don't have their coach, we don't have their players, but we're going to try to do what they're doing. Yeah. And Oklahoma City is beating you, you know, what I would call the death by 1,000 cuts approach. Like Shai Gilgeous can hurt you. Chet can hurt you. Jay Will can hurt you. Case and Wallace, Dort, lock you down defensively. You start your Caruso, lock you down defensively, can defend damn near 1 through 5, it feels like. You find yourself, when you're playing them, being gradually beaten down to a pulp, and it isn't necessarily that one knockout punch like a Milwaukee with Giannis or with a Philly with Embiid. It's like, yeah, Shai's giving you numbers, but Shai isn't the only one that's giving you that business. And the way that we talk about Oklahoma City, it feels like it feels like Groundhog's Day, because we said this, except instead of Oklahoma City, it was Boston a year ago. So do you see parallels between those two? And if so, what can the Celtics learn from OKC? Because I do think there's some things that OKC has learned from Boston, but let's flip it for a minute, because OKC is in the driver's seat, so to speak, to be a champ. What do you think the Celtics can learn from what OKC has done to position themselves where they are right now?
Oh man, that's a great question. For starters, I would say just incorporating guys from the G League in the sense of giving them opportunities, but obviously drafting well, right? I think that's a big part of it. I just think that's a huge part of the culture here with the Thunder. A handful of the players that are in the rotation that are getting meaningful minutes, they were grinding through the G League. I mean, Alex Caruso, man, what a story. This is a full circle moment for him. I mean, he was scratching and clawing to get into the NBA, and it started in Oklahoma, and it started with Mark Daigneault, who was coaching the Oklahoma City Blue at the time. And of course, he went on to do great things, goes to LA, wins a championship, gets a bag in Chicago, and then he's back, and he's a vital piece of a championship caliber team. I mean, that's such an incredible story in itself, but it really is a testament to a lot of guys' stories on this team. I mean, he's the only one that was able to win a championship, obviously, but guys like, Aaron Wiggins, Case and Wallace, Lou Dort came up through the G League. So I just think that's something that I feel like we didn't get a whole lot of, or at least, we haven't seen in a big way in Boston, whereas I feel like the Celtics, because of their been so dominant over the last 5 years, have been so relevant. They're able to get guys through free agency. Brad Stevens has done an incredible job doing things via trade. But I think when you look at the way the NBA is set up now with the second apron and the restrictions that come with it, it's going to be important. It's going to be important looking ahead, especially this upcoming season without Tatum. It's a big part of what helped this Thunder team sort of fill out those parts that you need on a championship roster. Depth, guys that come off the bench, when their number's called, they're always ready and delivering in big moments. I mean, I just think at the end of the day, going into this series, whether you had Minnesota or the Oklahoma City Thunder, one thing that was undeniable is their depth. And I think that played a humongous part. And I think that's really what separates these guys from the other top championship contending teams. And of course, having the MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sort of just creates that humongous gap.
Yeah, I think, and again, as I mentioned earlier, we've seen this over and over again where the NBA is indeed a copycat league. And I think the thing that teams are going to try and do that OKC has done, and again, it's way easier said than done, in part because it hinges heavily on your ability to have the right people in the right position, making the right decisions. Teams are going to try to build their roster with depth. Now, the Knicks went in a different direction. They went all in on having a top 5, top 6, and it got them to the conference finals. But clearly, their lack of depth is coming back to bite them in the ass in a big way. Indiana is just simply wearing them out because they've got more bodies they can throw at them. When I look at the Celtics, I thought that was one of the low-key benefits of their roster a year ago and winning a championship.
Right.
When you had guys, like Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser coming off the bench, Luke Cornett giving you something more than a damn screen set. Al Horford, just having the sage, wise veteran who you can plug and play as a starter or coming off the bench whenever you wanted to. The Celtics were legitimately 9 deep, and that was a big part of their success.
Right.
Well, I'm wondering, though, again, trying to keep the focus a little bit more on Boston. Actually, not so much Boston, but OKC, what do you see, Josue, that they could use more of going forward? Because they're built right now to win the championship. In all likelihood, they're going to, we're going to have this conversation in a couple of weeks where they're going to probably be the new NBA champion. But the way that they're built, I think they understand that you're only as good as you're going to be going forward. And when you look at their team, like last year, after it ended in disappointment, they knew they had to get tougher. They needed another physical body. So they went on and got Isaiah Hartenstein. What do you see them needing going forward, regardless of how this series plays out in the finals? But what do you see them needing maybe more of going forward as a franchise?
Maybe addressing the wing position, secondary wing players. I know Cameron Johnson was mentioned in rumors, or at least guys were kind of, people on social media and stuff were kind of talking about putting trade packages for someone like that, or just someone, like a two-way guy that can really deliver off the bench. But outside of that, I mean, you have options. You just wonder, which one of these guys is going to stay long-term. But in terms of just having someone to come off the bench, give you some of that 3-and-D, kind of approach, or someone that can guard multiple positions, something like that. But I mean, just not a whole lot missing. I mean, like you said, man, Isaiah Hartenstein, that was a humongous addition. Alex Caruso coming off the bench has been big. Like you said, he can guard 1 through 5. I mean, he was guarding Jokic, during that second round series against the Nuggets. So, I mean, they really did fill in those spots that they saw in their last run last season, against a hungry Dallas team, and I just think it all really came together this season. And then again, when you add the other guys that have been around for the last 3 or 4 years, just their ascension into being everyday NBA players, knowing their roles, being able to step up whenever their name is called, it really shows the depth of this team, but also the culture, right? I just think that the way these guys have also been able to put, the way they've been able to draft and bring guys into that locker room, that crazy group of players, these guys are really close, man. And it's not just, so when they bring in guys, whether it's through draft or signings like Isaiah Hartenstein or through a trade, they bring in locker room guys that they know fit right in. That's exactly what they did in Hartenstein and Caruso, man. Those are two guys that are having a blast out there. And we've seen it in a big way for sure, especially in the postseason.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they will. I mean, and again, I fully expect them to win an NBA championship. I'm not usually as bullish about that stuff, just because anything and everything can happen. But I'm just looking at that roster. I'm looking at the Knicks roster. I'm looking at Indy's roster, and I'm like, get your participation trophy, because you're not winning the big ship. You're just not built to beat this team.
It's the depth, man. I'm telling you, Sherrod.
Yeah. And so as I look at that, and I think more and more about it, the one concern I do have and it was one that I had with the Celtics, and I do think it came to materialize, is that when you win a championship, and let's say OKC does what the Celtics did, and you decide to bring pretty much most, if not all, of your core guys, your rotation guys back, which they could do, and it would, in a lot of ways, it would absolutely make sense. The concern that I have going forward is how will guys adjust to a different role going forward? Because the role that you had in winning a championship is not necessarily going to be the role that you have the year after. We saw that with Peyton Pritchard. We saw that, with Porzingis and his health and load management. We saw Drew Holiday, who was like, pretty much played all the games that you needed him to play during the championship run, had a little bit more load management-esque things going on the year after. Same thing with Tatum, who hates missing any games. And even before the injury, they were trying to do some things to minimize his minutes, or at least not have his minutes creep up too far. And I just wonder how the Thunder are going to adjust to that, because there will be an adjustment. Their head coach, if they win a championship, he's going to be seen very differently. How is that going to affect how he does his job? What do you think? Who's the one player who you think could have an increased role if they win a championship, and who's the player who you think might have slightly less of a role if they win a championship?
That's a good question. I mean, Cason Wallace, I feel like has really proven it, but it's interesting to see what happens when Nikola Topic is back. I mean, he was out all year with a ACL injury, and we're talking about the 12th overall pick in the NBA draft. You know what I mean? This is a lottery pick who these guys feel really, really confident about. Very young, but just from a standpoint of what these guys are trying to do right now in terms of his defense and being able to be a facilitator. I mean, they're really excited about how he's going to develop and grow. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that backcourt, because it's getting a little crowded, right? Lou Dort back there, you got Cason Wallace. I mean, he's going to continue to grow, because when you look at what he's able to do, not only just give you that 3-point shot, but he can also defend at a high level, be that spark off the bench. Of course, you got Alex Caruso. There's a lot of guards, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But in the sense of like guys getting an increased role, I mean, there's always one like Kenrich Williams, who's sort of been around, throughout this entire rebuild, and just a really good locker room guy that these guys, he's the guy that sends everyone the text messages and stuff. Comes over, says hi. I mean, he's always up for something like that. But again, it's really hard to say like definitively which guys even deserve one or should get one, because it's hard to say. It's a very talented group, and when you look at just again the youth and the way certain guys have made tremendous strides. I mean, obviously Jalen Williams is probably the biggest. Him making his first All-Star team, first All Defense, first All NBA. I mean, I don't know if I see a guy making a tremendous stride like that. But when you look at some of these secondary players like Aaron Wiggins, man, he had a career night this season, scoring 40+ points. So you wonder if he's going to make this tremendous stride where you have to give him more minutes and give him more of an opportunity, But then you look at what he's done throughout the postseason, he hasn't really stood out in a big way. Going into the postseason, I thought he would have a big game, or at least one of those games where you're like, man, that's his night. Maybe we see that in the finals. It's so hard to say, but it's such a great problem to have, right, Sherrod, if you're the Thunder, because you see the engagement and the knack these guys have to want to do more, and not give you another side of them if they're not getting the minutes that let's say someone else is getting. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to see that type of jealousy or someone check out. But like you said, Sherrod, after winning a championship, things change. People could change, attitudes could change, so seeing how they manage all that, and someone like Mark Dagnall is going to be great, because he's been around long enough where I think he has a great sense of what he needs to do if something like that happens. But also you wonder how that shakes down for a team that's never been here before, outside of Alex Caruso, never even no one's reached a championship. So this is the farthest any of these guys have been outside of Alex Caruso. You wonder how they respond to that. So it'll be interesting to see next year for sure. But the quick thing I wanted to mention too earlier, though, when we talk about depth, I can't remember another NBA season where we've seen so many injuries, from the stars to the everyday players. It's it's disappointing. I've been saying this for a while. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But just if you just add like a couple of weeks to the season, Sherrod, kind of spread out these games. So they're not playing 4 games a week. I think that would make a difference, man. But that's just my thing. The Thunder have been really lucky. Even though they did lose Holmgren for a couple of months with the hip injury, Jalen Williams missed a few games with the wrist, but overall they've been very fortunate in that sense. Yeah. But you still look at their depth as something that they can fall back on. I think that's something that a lot of teams are going to, when you talk about, the NBA being a copycat league, and if it win, I should say, the Thunder win a championship, I think you're going to see teams really start putting their attention towards stuff like that more, whether it's bringing guys up through the G League, drafting well, or making sure that they have a lineup or rotation that's 8 or at least 9 deep, I should say, like Tim's gonna have to get out of his way, man. I just don't think that's a sustainable formula moving forward in today's NBA.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I did want to touch on is that when I think about guys in that OKC team that I think will be more impactful a year from now and guys who will be less, I got to believe that Chet Holmgren is going to be a dominant big. When you look at his ability to stretch the floor, you look at his his defensive acumen, just his instincts. And the other thing too that people don't, I think, pay enough attention to, which for old heads like me, I'm totally focused on, is their physical maturity. Chet is going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. He's going to be able to be more of a banger in a year, in 2 and 3 years than he is right now. And when you start taking just physical maturation on top of his game evolving, you're going to get a player that is going to be much more impactful than he is right now. And he's pretty damn impactful right now. He's going to be even more so. And so typically what happens, and we saw this with Peyton Pritchard, if one guy rises, someone's got to take a little bit of a step back. And I think the guy that's going to take a step back is Dort. I think that he is, of all the guys in their like core group, he's probably the most expendable. And I think his minutes at some point will probably go to Case and Wallace. I think they'll probably move Dort at some point this offseason to either add talent or just to, frankly, keep the payroll from, getting too unwieldy. And he's not making a ton of money, but Case and Wallace is a much more affordable option and can do a lot of the things that Lou can do. And so, and that doesn't make Lou a bad player, because I think Lou's a really good player. That rainbow 3-ball that he liked to shoot. And when I say when he releases it, it feels like it might actually hit the ceiling one day.
Yeah, it almost hit Nick Collison's retired uniform up there, man. It almost did.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's the shot. But I do think that he's a good enough player, and he's young enough to where you could move him and get either a young prospect or get some picks or something like that. The kind of things that Sam Presti is always in the market for. And it'd still not be a devastating loss to your roster, because, again, I think they've got some guys that we have not seen much of that are going to be players in the near future, sooner rather than later. Before we get out of here, for those of you listening to this show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show for the first time, let's not make it be the last time. Come on back.
Yeah, man. You guys are missing out. Where you been? It's your first time.
Exactly. And all of this, is available on CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find this show. You can find Josue, who's going to talk about some of the things he's got popping. And again, just come and hang out with the fellas. Josue, let the folks know some of the things you got going on.
Yeah, man. This run continues. We got the NBA Finals, of course, next week. Check us out, Clutch Points, Thunder Nation as well on Facebook. Catch up all my articles and stuff. And, of course, the Cedric Maxwell podcast, man. Always a great show. Doing things a little differently in the sense of getting other guys on. But, I've been busy with the Thunder and all that, but still a great show to check out, of course. And I'm sure we'll maybe do an episode or so, maybe 1 or 2, at least at some point between now and the end of the NBA Finals. But yeah, man, check me out, of course, on Twitter as well, at Joe_Sway. Plenty of coverage, as you can imagine, from here, can I say Indianapolis? I'd have to say or. Either way, you'll catch up with all the Thunder content. Check me out, man, for sure. It's gonna be a really, really fun ride, and I can't wait, man. You know what it's like, Sherrod, NBA Finals. Who knows what I can run into? Random people, random guests, interviews, exclusives. I got a chance to catch up with Kendrick Perkins, man. He's having a ball out here with all his. He got his little Perk squad with him. One of them is a diehard Anthony Edwards fan, so he was a little bit heartbroken. But yeah, man, the who's of the NBA will be around for sure. And you know me, man, I'm gonna do my microphone and camera. 1, 2. Give me a few minutes for a quick interview thing, like I usually do, and hopefully.
Yep.
I mean, man, last year we got Ray Allen at TD Garden. I don't know if it'll be that special, but we'll see what I can come up with. I don't know if we'll get an E40 and Draymond Green type of moment from 2022, but man, Sherrod, third NBA Finals in 4 years, man. I couldn't. If someone told me it was going to happen, I'd be like, I probably would assume it was all from the Celtics, to be honest. But of course, it's not the case.
This is the Josue dynasty that we're all living in right now. Clearly. And again, for all the stuff that Josue is talking about, particularly the stuff on CLNS Media Network, make sure you turn on your notifications so you know the instant that content is going to drop. Absolutely. And again, for Josue, I'm Sherrod Blakely, and this is the Big 3 NBA Podcast. Have a good one, folks.